Outstanding work of our change agents and Dr. Johnny Cruz Craig, we worked on different topics, not just the normal thing. You know, we worked on culturally relevant teaching, social and emotional learning, trauma-informed classrooms, and the whole child, just to name a few.
In terms of what you all are doing and what it means to us and what it means to everyone, education is a foundational key. I think it was George Washington Carver that said education is the key to freedom, which is the tie and the link between education and social action.
Delta pushed early on that it's not just matriculating through a scripted curriculum that may not teach needed life and adaptive skills. We have been pushing through our gyms and other programs that you need to focus on educating the whole person so that our next generation has the basic life skills to navigate and adapt in now an even more demanding and unrelenting world environment.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. My name is Consuela Chambers Banks. I am a member of the North Carolina DTEC-TAG team, and I'm also representing Wake County Public Schools. I have the honor of welcoming you tonight to our program that we're so excited to bring to you. Before we get started, I do have an ask for each and every one of you. No matter what platform you're watching this on or you're streaming from, please share the link right now. Share it with 1, 2, 100, 200 people, because if they miss this program tonight, they're surely going to miss a treat. Before we delve into our program and hear Principal Kafele and our other esteemed panelists, I do want to introduce to you some other North Carolina TAG team members who will be representing on this program tonight. So I'm going to bring to this virtual stage Renice Gerard, representing Pitt County, Pamela Toller Criswell, representing Granville County, Syeda Smith Williams, representing Caswell County, and last but not least, Tia Gillum Wilson, representing Alamance County.
Good evening. I have the honor and privilege of introducing our keynote speaker for the evening. Principal Baruti Kafele, a highly regarded urban educator in New Jersey for more than 20 years, has distinguished himself as a master teacher and transformational school leader. As an elementary school teacher in East Orange, New Jersey, in addition to being named the East Orange School District and Essex County Public School Teacher of the Year, Principal Kafele was a finalist for New Jersey State Teacher of the Year and a recipient of the New Jersey Education Association Award of Excellence. As a middle and high school principal, Principal Kafele led the transformation of 4 New Jersey urban schools, including the mighty Newark Tech, which went from a low-performing school in need of improvement to national recognition, and which was recognized 3 times by U.S. News and World Record as one of America's best high schools. One of the most sought-after school leadership experts and education speakers in America, Principal Kafele is impacting America's schools. He has delivered over 2,000 conference and keynote and program keynotes, professional development workshops, parenting seminars, and student assemblies over his 34 years of public speaking. An expert in the area of attitude transformation, Principal Kafele is the leading authority on providing effective classroom and school leadership strategies towards closing what he coined the attitude gap. In addition to writing several professional articles for popular education journals, he has authored 11 books, including his 6 ASCD bestsellers, Motivating Black Males to Achieve in School and in Life, Closing the Attitude Gap, The Teacher 50, Is My School a Better School Because I Lead It?, The Principal 50, and The Assistant Principal 50. His next book, The Equity and Social Justice Education 50, will be released in May 2021. Principal Kafele is a recipient of more than 150 educational, professional, and community awards, including the prestigious Millikan National Educator Award and the National Alliance of Black School Educators Hall of Fame Award. He was inducted into the East Orange, New Jersey Hall of Fame, and the city of Dickinson, Texas, proclaimed February the 8th, 1998, Baruti Kafele Day. At this time, we're going to turn it over to Principal Kafele.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Good to be here. Good to see you. Good evening to the DTEC audience. You know, anytime I have the opportunity to speak to educators or people that just want to talk education, you know, it's an honor. It's a privilege. So it's an evening program, but that's okay. Let's jump into it. And I better look at my watch because I got a lot of fire in me, right? And I want to make sure that I get it all in. So, you know, tonight we're talking about the leadership mindset. And when I learned that was going to be the topic, it's been on my mind a little while in terms of that leadership mindset, because it's in terms of this program, because it's something that I think about on a daily basis, the leadership mindset. Because I think about, you know, when I talk about education and the roles of educators, what we do, I'm always talking about the fact that it's not just the practice. Like, for example, that book, The Growth Mindset, Carol Dweck's work. Somewhere along the way, I started talking about the equity mindset. And I would always distinguish the equity mindset from equitable practices. See, we can train somebody in equity, but we can't necessarily transform their thinking. That's their decision to make, right? That's a personal decision. But if they walk into that classroom and do not bring an equity mindset with them, then children are probably going to suffer, right? Because it's not just about the practices. It's about the attitude. It's about the way that you approach this mentally, emotionally, psychologically. So with leadership, it's the same thing. You can go to grad school and learn all you want about leadership. You can read all the leadership books and you can read my books, right? You can read all the books you want to read about leadership, but ultimately you've got to have a leadership mindset. And there's no definition as to what that means. But do you have an attitude of leadership, right? Not just a practitioner within leadership, but do you have this mentality that you bring along with you as you walk into a building, as you walk into your department or your team or your division or your district, whatever it is? Do you bring this attitude? So let me kind of open it up this way. When I was a principal here in New Jersey for about 14 years, I had a ritual at the end of the day. And the ritual was to be outside and to be visible, to be accessible to all the students, all the parents that may be picking up their children, and anybody else that may just want to talk to me before the ground's clear. So that was part of the routine. But then once the grounds were cleared, then it's just myself in the building. Now comes the ritual. Right? It's everybody's gone. Theoretically, I could go inside and engage in my after school activities. And usually that's a whole lot of paperwork unless there's a game or an event or whatever. But I didn't go inside. I stayed outside and I literally stared at the building. So I'm looking at the building and I'm engaged in a conversation within myself as I'm looking at the front of the building, the facade of the building. And I've got a question to ask of me. And the question was, is my school a better school because I lead it? And I asked myself that question for years, 180 days of the school year, meaning every day the school was in session. Same ritual every day. Is that school a better school because I lead it? And then I answer my own question. And one may think, well, if you ask the question on the first day of school, why do you need to continue to ask the same question? And the reason was because the answer would vary. So in other words, my ego can speak to me and say, yes, the school is a great school, an amazing school, a phenomenal school, an extraordinary school because I lead it. That's ego talking. But see, I'm saying to leaders out here watching this evening and who will see this recording, I'm taking ego and placing it over here. So now it's just my authentic self. Is that school a better school because I lead it? Well, on any given day, here's the answer. No. Emphatically, no, it is not. See, we're talking leadership mindset tonight. See, in other words, there are days, and I say, yes, it's good. It's a better school because I'm here. But those days I said no, which were several, if not many, was because I had two non-negotiables. I want you to hear me, somebody. Write this down if need be. I had two non-negotiables. Because see, the work is this. It's beyond the fingertips. It's infinite in terms of the work. You'll never have a day, you know this, that you could kick back and say, nothing to do. And I mean, that's even my life as a consultant during a pandemic virtually. There's never a day when I can say, I finished all my work. I got nothing to do. Those days do not exist, right? So that's the work. There's always going to be something to do. But I'm talking about bringing my hands together and saying this. See, it's narrow now. And I'm saying I had two non-negotiables. Everything else is on the table. But these two non-negotiables, I had to engage in these if I'm going to call myself the leader that I thought I was. Non-negotiable number one, instructional leadership, right? See, with this leadership mindset, this leadership thinking that we're talking about tonight? Well, I'm saying here that as the principal of the school, as the leader of the school, I've got to be the leader instructionally, but I got to have the mindset that concludes that that's important, that that's necessary, that I must engage in this practice if teachers are going to grow in their practice the way that I imagined that they could. See, so I've got to bring that mentality, that mindset, that I'm this instructional leader, but then I'm engaged in the practice. And if I don't engage in the practice, then I go to the question, is my school a better school because I lead it? No. Why not? Because there's nothing about my walk today that impacted a teacher. Nothing. There's nothing about my walk today that made a teacher that much more effective. It doesn't exist. So, but then I said I had two non-negotiables. Non-negotiable number 2, student engagement. So now I'm looking at the facade of the school. Is my school a better school because I lead it? No. Why not? Because you said nothing to a youngster today that could help that youngster to get from point A to point B. Yeah, I spoke over the PA system. Yeah, I gave him my morning message. Yeah, I gave him my closing message at the end of the day. But that is so impersonal. That's not one-on-one. That's not one-on-two. That's not 1-on-5. That's just an announcement to an entire building. A message, I should say, to an entire building. I'm asking myself, who'd I impact today? Who'd I bring to the side in the hallway and engage in a conversation? What cluster of, say, 5 or 10 students who were walking together to get to class, and I said, hey, let me talk to y'all for a minute. Let me holler at you. Right. And then we engage in some discussion of substance for a couple of minutes, a few minutes before they go to class. Or in the cafeteria that I sat at somebody's table and we talked for 30 minutes. Right, where there was a culture that we put in place where it was acceptable for the principal to sit at the lunch table with teenagers and engage them in a conversation. See, culture has got to impose that I have that permission to be able to sit there and have the conversation. Right. So where, in what part of the day did any of this occur? It didn't. So now, is my school a better school because I lead it? Nah. So what you gonna do about it? Well, I got to go back to the drawing board. I got to go plan. First, I got to identify what precluded me from being the leader that I wanted to be. What stood in my way from allowing me to be that person? What allowed me to be the person that I have in my mind relative to my leadership mindset? See? So as I determine what that is, and then as I strategize moving forward so that I don't replicate what happened the day before, now I go into that school the next day with this mindset, because that's what we're talking about, leadership mindset, with this mindset that I'm going to lead instructionally today, and all this entailed in instructional leadership. That I'm going to engage young people, not just the classroom teachers, but I'm going to engage the young people myself, right? So we're talking about this leadership mindset that I've got to continually look into my own thoughts, look into my own thinking, and who am I within this practice called leadership relative to my mental, right? To the way I think about approaching the whole dynamic. So with that, I say there are these seven strands, because I've got this whole leadership mindset framework. I need about 6 hours to really explain it, but we're gonna do the short summary version, right? So I've got this framework, and it's comprised of 7 strands. I probably should have put this on the screen, but since this was short, I just wanted to talk to y'all. I didn't want to use a PowerPoint tonight. I'm PowerPoint fatigued, actually. So we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk to your ear, and then you just write it down or record. You watch the rerun later on. So here we go. These seven strands within a framework of the leadership mindset. Strand number 1, leadership identity. Once again, leadership identity. And your leadership identity asks the question, who am I? I'm going to keep this self-reflective. So who am I? I'm asking you, there's a leader watching right now. There's an aspiring leader watching right now, a veteran leader watching right now. I'm asking you, who are you as leader? I've been in this business long enough to know now that there are folks in our profession, and this is not a criticism, it's just an observation, that there are folks in this business who cannot answer that question. They can rattle off what may sound good, and it gets to be lengthy, dissertation oriented. But in terms of that concise answer to the point, there's a lot of folks that haven't considered that, right? Your leadership identity. So in other words, when you walk into the school, you're walking in as who? See, let me really break this down. The time right now is about 6:50 Eastern time. 20 minutes ago, I was sitting here listening to Steel Pulse, those of you that know reggae, and then I mixed in some Syeda, right? And I'm sitting here chilling, waiting for 6:30, 6:20 so I can come on, right? So I'm listening to Steel Pulse. And if you don't know Steel Pulse, you need to find out who they are and listen to them, right? And reggae band. And then I'm listening to Syeda. I'm not in this presenter mode when I'm listening. Like I wasn't listening to the music to get me hyped or anything like that. I was just listening. So I wasn't in Principal Kafele mode. I was in Baruti Kafele mode. There's a difference. So when it was getting close to time to log on, I started transitioning into Principal Kafele mode in terms of my identity as a presenter. Because if I talk like this to my wife, she might laugh me out of the house. Right. So I'm in speaker mode. I'm not performing. It's just that this is who I am right now. So this is the identity that I'm wearing in real time. But in school, it was the same thing. But who it was a little different from who I am as presenter. In school, I said, I wear a zillion hats, but I don't necessarily need the students to be privy or conscious of the hats that I wear as the principal of the school. Because a lot of those hats are not relevant to them trying to get to where it is that they want to be in life. Them trying to get from point A to point B. The hat that was most relevant in my mind was the hat that had the words written across, so to speak, that said motivator. So when I think about my identity, right, that mindset under the leadership umbrella, I said, I just want to be seen as this motivator, this person that walks through the building, that engages with staff, that engages with students, and the youngsters see that and they say, man, Principal Kafele, that man motivates me. See, that's what I wanted to be. I don't need to hear them say that, but I wanted them when they see me, man, Principal Kafele, he motivates me. He inspires me. This man makes me think that I can be successful in whatever I conceptualize. That's all I wanted to be. I didn't want to be the disciplinarian. I didn't need them to know what I do with the budget and the schedule and parent conferences. All that stuff wasn't relevant. What was relevant was when you see me, you see inspiration. When you see me, you see motivation. When you see me, you see empowerment. When you see me, you see encouragement. So we're talking about me having this mindset that when I walk through that school, I need to represent something. And that was my identity. What's your identity as leader? What's your identity as teacher? Who are you? Number 2, man, that mini hand is flying too, y'all. Number 2, leadership presence. Oh, man, your leadership presence. I always say, that your presence is your representative of your essence. See, you can't see, in other words, you can't declare your presence. You can't declare that. Your presence speaks for you, but you have to be in control of what message your presence is conveying. Because see, if you articulate that you are one thing relative to who you are as leader, but your presence says something different. So let's say, for example, since I use that language, instructional leadership. So you claim to your colleagues, oh yes, I'm the instructional leader of my school. But then you walk into the building and the teachers see you, and that's the furthest thing from their mind. They don't see you as that. They see you as like this disciplinarian or this bully or this arrogant person, whatever it is. They don't see you for who you said you are, who you think you are, who you claim you are. So now who you are is not what you say. Who you are is what they perceive you to be. Your presence speaks for you. So when I say your leadership presence, it asks the question, what do I represent as the leader of my school? So in other words, it's this, with my mouth shut. What is this saying? Because it's going to communicate. It's just a matter of if it's aligned with how you feel about yourself. See? So I said, okay, as I'm thinking about my own mindset as a leader, and I'm literally asking myself, what does my presence represent? I said one word to be consistent with my identity. I said my presence has got to represent excellence. It has got to. So in other words, as I walk the halls, as I walk in a classroom, as I walk in the cafeteria, as I walk in the gymnasium, as I walk wherever there are students, I said my body language has got to be speaking excellence. So excellence academically, excellence socially, excellence behaviorally, right? Excellence in terms of ambition, excellence with everything. I said, that's what I want my presence to represent, so that when young people see me, they know, man, Kafele is about us being the best. And I heard young people say that several times, many times, that Kafele is about us being the best. That's what he's about. Do y'all hear me? See, so what does your presence represent? Again, you can't proclaim your presence. Your presence does its own communication, but it's a reflection of your essence. See, you got to have alignment. Let me keep going, y'all, because I could go an hour just on presence alone. Number 3, your leadership impact, which asks the question, what is my influence as the leader of my school? I'm asking you, like when you're in your school, teachers, when you're in your classroom, does you being in that school, your presence in that school, does it impact the forward movement of that school? Is there something about you being there that the school is growing, that the school is evolving, that the school is getting better, that the school is changing, it's morphing? Is there something about you being there? I always say to teachers, can you look at your students and conclude that your students would agree that you are the number one determinant in their lives during the school day, that they are at an advantage because you are their teacher? Is there something advantageous about you being their teacher? Well, that's what this leadership impact is about in terms of your influence on the school. Is there something about that you're in place that achievement is happening? Is there something about, because you're in place, camaraderie is happening, morale is happening, sense of family and bonding is happening? See, what impact do you make on that building? What is your influence in that school? Number 4, leadership mission. See, we're talking about a mentality. See, we're talking about the way you're seeing yourself, right? So here, leadership mission. I'm asking the question with this one: what is my what as the leader of the school? Let me say that again. What is my what as the leader of the school? And when I say your what, here's what I mean. What's that thing that you say? I will not rest. I will not stop until this is accomplished. See, your mission. Do you have a leadership mission? And I don't mean a school mission, a district mission. See, the leadership mission is personal. The school mission is the school mission. That's a whole other conversation. I'm talking about you. Is there something that's like that fire beneath you? Something that's driving you? Something that's guiding you? Something that's pulling you? Something that's leading you? So is there something that you said, you know, there are many things I have to do, but there's this one thing that I must do. Mine was all about male empowerment. And I said, I'm building men, right? I said that was my leadership mission. It wasn't the school mission. It was personal. This thing kept me up at night. This thing preoccupied my thinking, right? That leadership mission, that thing that said, I will not stop until this is accomplished. See? So what is your what as a leader? But we couple that with number 5, your leadership purpose. What is your why as a leader? See, the what and the why, the mission and the purpose, they go hand in glove. Because see, if I can use as an example what I said before, the leadership mission relative to the young men, the young men's empowerment program that I created and built over time. Well, okay, that's the mission, but now the purpose is, well, why is that necessary? See, the leadership why qualifies the leadership mission. So now the why, now it's like, okay, well, let's look at what the data says. Let's look at what the eye test says. Let's look at the improvements that we can make with this population. So now that drove me. I said, let's build men. We're talking about a population of young men where large percentages of them, in my case, 80% are going home where there's no male or man model in the household. So if that person's not in their life, then where are they finding that person? And in too many cases, they may be finding that person in the wrong places. So I said, let me be that guy. Let me be that man. And that became my leadership why, right? I want to prove to the world. And this is the language that I always use. I said, I want to prove to the world what Black boys are capable of achieving when they got the right structures in place, right? I won't even take the credit and say the right leader. I'll say the right structures in place, right? That leadership why. But then number 6, your leadership vision. This is a huge one, right? Because again, school vision is one thing, but your leadership vision. We're talking about your leadership mindset. And when you walk in there with that mindset, are you walking in there with your personal vision? See, I want you to walk lockstep with the school vision, the district vision, but we ain't talking about that tonight. I'm talking about your personal vision, your leadership vision. Where, in other words, where will that school be? Because you lead it. That's what I'm asking. But let's put a time frame around it. Where will that school be by the end of this year? Because you lead it. Where will that school be in 3 years because you lead it? Where will that school be in 5 years because you lead it? Where will it be? I'm saying to you in real time, even though it's not until 5 years, you got to know, not just speculate. You got this vision. You see it in your mind's eye, but you took your pad and you took your pen and you wrote the vision. Again, I'm not talking about the school vision. I'm talking about your vision. See, we're talking about that leadership mindset, and we're saying you cannot walk into that building and you do not have or that team, that department, that division, that district, and you do not have a vision of where that school will be as a result of you being a leader. But let's look at that vision through a different lens. Where will you be as a leader in a year? In other words, we're talking about your growth and development now. Where will you be as a leader in 2 years, in 3 years, in 5 years? Where will you be? Because certainly who you are today can't be who you are next year on March 25th, 2022. You have to have grown significantly. But I'll go as far as to say who you are on March 25th can't be the same person on March 26th tomorrow. You have to have grown. Something you have to have had exposed yourself to something that's going to allow you to grow between today and tomorrow. Perhaps, and this is not me patting myself on the back, but perhaps maybe a part of this discussion, myself, the panel, is a part of your growth today into tomorrow. And then the last one, and then I'll wrap up, is your leadership value. That's another big one. Your leadership value, which asks the question, what is my worth as the leader of my school or team or department or division or district? What's my worth? So in other words, think about anything you buy, right? And you know, like I'm sitting here with I got my computer in front of me, the camera, the lights. Imagine something didn't work, right? Got adapters, got all sorts of stuff around here. Imagine something didn't work. Then it has no value to me. It has no worth in my work. I'll be sending it back because it's of no use. It's of no value. Well, I'm asking you the same thing about yourself as leader. What is your value to your school? Do you have worth in the lives of your staff and children? I would challenge you to ask yourselves that question every day, right? So, because here's what it's asking. Here's another way of phrasing it. Do I matter? See, do you matter? And see, remember we said the ego, lift that, turn right or turn left and like place it down somewhere. And now you get your mirror, because see, this is one of the most potent tools that you could use in education. That's why I keep it so close by. I don't go anywhere without it, because you got to go to this thing. See, I got it in your eyes right now, but you got to put it in your own, and you got to look at you, and you got to have that honest conversation with yourself. What is my worth, my value to my school, to my students, to my staff, to the parents of my students, and to the broader community? See, and as you have the honest conversation, you may find that it yields some answers that you really didn't want. But the mirror, it doesn't lie. It doesn't lie. So the mirror may tell you some things, but that's okay. Now you get these other tools that I keep by, and you start jotting down. You start jotting down the causes, the goals, and the plan of action as you move forward. So again, we're talking about, as I close, your leadership identity, your leadership presence, your leadership impact, mission, purpose, vision, and value. They matter as we talk about your leadership mindset. So just so that folks can get the fuller presentation, if you like, just go to principalkafele.com. Principalkafele.com. Click the email address and ask me to send you the fuller presentation, and I'd be glad to. But I also, for 10 seconds, I want to invite you to my Saturday Academy, where I can, just every week, every Saturday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern, in fact, 10:55, my Facebook page at Principal Kafele, my Twitter page at Principal Kafele, or my YouTube channel at Virtual AP Leadership Academy. And it's focused. The focus is assistant principals, but we're talking leadership every week. And join me on Saturday morning so you can be a part of those conversations, right? So I will see you in 2 days on Saturday. With that said, DTEC, I appreciate the opportunity to spend a little time on this address, and I look forward to being a part of the panel as well. Keep on doing your thing out there, folks.
Thank you so much, Principal Kafele. I was over here taking notes. I have 2 pages of notes that I'm going to go back and read, and I'm going to go back and replay this video, and I'm also going to join on Saturday. But I did get a lot out of what you said, and one of the most important things for me is to remove my ego and be my authentic self, and then look in that mirror and take a good look in the mirror and, reflect on what it is saying. And then once I do that, get my pen and pad and write down my causes, my goals, and my actions. But whatever it says, I have to move forward and keep going.
There you go. Good stuff. Appreciate you. Couldn't have said it better.
It was hot. This whole presentation was fire. And now we're going to bring more heat with some amazing leaders in education from North Carolina. So at this time, TAG Renice, you're it.
Yes, thank you, Tia. Yes, thank you, Principal Kafele. I have my pen, I have my pad too, taking notes. A lot to unpack tonight. Yes, Principal Kafele is going to stay with us in our panel, and I would like to introduce our other esteemed leaders. First, I would like to introduce Pamela Toller-Criswell. She is the assistant principal at Butner STEM Elementary School. Pamela is currently in her 3rd year as an assistant principal in Granville County Public Schools. Prior to becoming an assistant principal, she taught special education for a total of 17 years, teaching in Maryland, Georgia, and North Carolina. As a national board certified teacher, she's had the pleasure to work with many wonderful educators, collaborating to make sure middle and high school scholars receive the best education possible. Now, as an elementary assistant principal, she continues to collaborate to make sure her scholars receive an equitable education from highly effective educators. Over the last 6 years, she's had the opportunity to become immersed in education advocacy, working with DTEC, Teacher Efficacy Academy 2, and DTEC-TAG 1 and 2 as an equity warrior. Pamela holds a bachelor's degree in psychology, a master's in educational psychology, and a master's in school administration. Recently, Pamela chartered the Raleigh-Durham area chapter of Black Girls Rock Incorporated. It is her vision that she and her amazing chapter members will continue to work to achieve educational equity for all children, especially children of color. She is the proud mother of 2, Lashana and Carson, and grandmother of 4, Bailey, Kyra, Carson Jr., and Caleb. Let's welcome Miss Pamela Toller-Criswell. Next, I would like to introduce Principal Jack Davern of Elon Elementary. For the past decade, Jack Davern has served as the principal of Elon, an Alamance Burlington school system in North Carolina. He started his career in Scotland County, North Carolina as a 4th grade teacher after earning his degree in elementary education. As his career guided him, he served in many significant leadership roles as a teacher. He soon earned national board certification as a teacher and shortly thereafter graduated with a master's in school administration. Prior to his current role, he has served as principal, assistant principal, curriculum specialist, and 21st Century Community Learning Center coordinator. He completed the Intensive National Board Pilot Program for Principals and was the first administrator in NC, North Carolina, to earn the state-endorsed Global Educator Digital Badge. He leads his school to gain local, state, and national recognition as an accomplished global school. Jack has earned his education specialist degree and is in the final stages of completing his education doctoral degree from UNCG. Let's welcome Principal Jack Davern. Next, I'd like to introduce Syeda Smith-Williams. She is the assistant principal at Bartlett Yancey High School. Syeda is a native of Detroit, Michigan, and a 4th-generation educator. Currently in her 12th year in education, Syeda began her career teaching science, math, and career technical education curriculum. During her tenure, she has served as the department chair, school improvement team lead, district team technology lead, teachers leaders program, and STEAM coordinator. Mrs. Smith-Williams uses her platform to increase engagement for minority men and women in the fields of leadership, science, math, and engineering. She partnered with 5 neighboring universities to collaborate with fellow administrators, teachers, students, and parents to increase engaging curriculum and provide industry-based skills to promote learning. Syeda has earned a bachelor's degree in biology with concentration in physics from North Carolina A&T State University, and a master's in instructional technology with a concentration in educational software development and media coordination from the same university. Aggie pride. In May 2019, Syeda Smith-Williams completed her master's in school administration from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. She has earned recognition as a 2015 Keenan Fellow participant, a UNC Science Teacher Director, and Class of 24 North Carolina Principal Fellow. While serving as a Principal Fellow, intern at East Lawn Elementary in Burlington, North Carolina, she developed a group called Ladies of Excellence, composed of 4th and 5th grade girls. The primary purpose is to build the community capacity within the classes, school, and the neighborhoods. Mrs. Syeda Smith-Williams is an assistant principal at Bartlett Yancey Senior High School in Yanceyville, North Carolina, in Caswell County, where she's an active participant in the superintendent's Aspiring Principal Academy. Duly noted, Mrs. Smith-Williams is an active member in DTEC-TAG, North Carolina, where she collaborates with other dynamic educational professionals. Personally, Mrs. Syeda Smith-Williams has a dynamic husband and life partner, Javon, and a beautiful daughter, Jasmine, who both define her why. Let's welcome Syeda. And next we have Tafari Wallace. He is the special advisor to the state superintendent for principal engagement of the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. Tafari Wallace is the principal of West Craven High School in Craven County, North Carolina. Along with being named the 2018-2019 Wells Fargo North Carolina Principal of the Year, Mr. Wallace has been called the drum major for education, the education profession, which he bespeaks of his ability to promote and build bridges for excellence in our field. Considered in his county as a transformational specialist, Wallace has successfully turned around the 2 middle schools he led, highlighted by closing the achievement gap while at Havelock Middle School. He is currently laying the foundation for West Craven High to become the first career academy school in Craven County. He was the first 2-year advisor to the State Board of Education and was appointed by Governor Cooper to the Craven Community College Board of Trustees and by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tim Moore, to the Professional Educator Preparation and Standards Commission. He was the 2019 NSSP National Principal of the Year candidate and is currently a State Board of Education Equity Goal Team member, along with him being a member of the NC Human Capital Roundtable. The Ellen Show sensation is a doctoral candidate in the final dissertation phase at East Carolina University. Go Pirates. Invest in your human capital and the results will take care of itself. Ride or fly. All right, so again, get your pen. If you don't already have it, get your paper. We're in for a treat. So the first question that I would like to pose to Principal Davern is, what is the most influential advice a mentor has shared with you?
It's undoubtedly the ability to listen. That has been consistent from all ranges of my experiences. Your ability to listen, and then your ability to mentor, to guide, whether it's giving that advice or providing the encouragement. And overall, have a sense of humor. And I think those things blend nicely together to carry you through challenges or whatever the weather may bring.
All right, thank you. Principal Mr. Wallace.
I would say on a personal note, they pretty much said it's gonna sound kind of egotistical here, but I don't even want to say it after he listened to Principal Kafele. But Pretty much he said that I was special. I had a former superintendent that did not give me a chance as an assistant principal. His perspective of me was that of immaturity. He saw me getting down in the trenches with the babies. I love to have fun with my students, dancing with them, playing sports with them, this and that. But the superintendent that followed him said that that's what makes you special. You're able to get right in the trenches with the babies and do that. And on a drop of a dime, you can turn around and then you could be that mentor. You could be the disciplinarian. You could be the teacher. You could be the one that get them, as Principal Kafele said, from point A to point B. So that was the most influential thing that he ever, that Larry Moser told me, because he pretty much gave me that designation that I can do it, that I can make an impact.
Syeda, what do you think?
I apologize. I'm muted. I had several different principals and mentors to let me know, number one, the greatest leader has a dynamic team. Number two, that decisions do require collaboration. And I think the biggest one is understanding your role, which is so vastly different than anyone else as a woman in leadership. Understanding that your unique gifts as a mother, as a child, as a wife are gifted for you, and they bring a sense of leadership to everybody in the group. So understanding that your role is vital, it is needed as a woman in leadership, were some of the most dynamic advices that I have received.
All right. And Principal Kafele, before you have become a mentor to many of us, what was the most influential advice someone has given you, your mentor gave you?
Yeah, the one that really jumps out at me, during my internship, I had a mentor who became my boss when I became principal, and ultimately now he's long retired. So am I, but we're still friends. He said to me during the internship back, and I can tell you the year was in 1995. He said, Kafele, when you become a principal, don't ever forget that the purpose of your supervision of teachers will be their continued improvement in instruction. That did not resonate with me when he said it, because I was of a mindset of a disciplinarian, because that's, that was just the reality of the world that I existed in. But after I got that first set of test scores, I realized I was able to reflect back, and I said, now I know what he meant. And that's when I kind of took off, so remember that the purpose of your supervision is the continued improvement of your teacher's instruction in the classroom.
So it's important to have these mentors in our life. I'm just throwing this question out there. How do you find a mentor? If you're an aspiring leader, do you just ask someone? Like, what are the steps in choosing your mentor? And I pose this for anyone.
I'm going to yield to anybody.
Well, I can say, me personally, I was gifted a mentor being part of the Principal Fellows Program. I was gifted several mentors. Also, actually speaking to individuals that you admire, and I have admired everyone on this panel independently. So I have admired globally, of course, Principal Kafele. I've definitely admired Mr. Wallace and his wonderful time at Ellen DeGeneres. I definitely have admired Jack. When he shows his excellence in Elon Elementary, he's hiding a lot of his greatness, but he is great as well. And I have definitely admired my tag team sisters. So finding individuals in which you truly admire, and then most of individuals are just a phone call, social media reference away. Not being afraid to jump out there to speak to individuals who are like-minded like you and who are more than willing to help. Because I always believe that a great principal was a great teacher. And as a great teacher, we always had to mentor other individuals.
Yeah, so just reach out.
Exactly, reach out.
Yeah. So Pamela, as a leader, what are 3 characteristics that you feel a leader should possess?
So before I answer that question, I do want to make one correction, everybody. I actually chartered the Raleigh-Durham chapter of Black Educators Rock. not Black Girls Rock. So
oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So there are a lot of characteristics I think that good leaders possess, but 3 that I want to just mention are, first of all, positive self-efficacy. We have to believe that we are able to positively impact the individuals that we are working with, whether it's the children, whether it's the teachers. We have to believe in ourselves that we can turn that situation around. We have to believe in ourselves that we have the capacity to make a difference. We also have to be organized, because if you're not organized, you're not going to be successful. So you got to make sure that you have things in place. Don't wait to the last minute to do things. Write down things. Principal Kafele showed you, pen and paper. We all need to be doing that to making lists of things that we need to do. And I also believe that we have to be really great listeners. We can't just hear. I used to tell my students all the time, there's a big difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is physical, and right now we're blessed to be able to do that. But listening takes mental capacity, and so we have to make sure that when our scholars and when our teachers are speaking to us, we are actually listening. We are engaged. You don't want to have someone in your office speaking with you and you're doing 99 other things while they're talking to you. You want to be actively engaged in what it is they're trying to communicate with you about. So positive self-efficacy, organization, and being a great listener are 3 things that I think are good leader characteristics.
Great. Thank you, Pamela. Jack, what do you think? What are the 3 characteristics?
Well, I think it's that advice that was given to me by mentors that made me the kind of listener that I am, and to be a good listener, to hear what your student is saying, your parent is saying, your teacher is saying, and channel that in the direction that they need to. So being a good listener, but to be able to take that to that next level and to really hear what they say and not walk away from the conversation and move on to the next thing. Move on to what the conversation drove you to do or drove them to bring to you to help them to figure out. And I think being humble and not forgetting what it's like in the classroom. Yes. I think that is so critical. It's my annual promise to myself as a professional. On that walk, when the building is empty, before the kids come in, I walk the building. I walk in, I look at every room. I think about the promise in every room. And I always remind myself, don't forget what it's like to be in the shoes, in that seat, in the front of that classroom with those kids every day. And that helps to guide me and keep my north with our teachers throughout the room. So that's one of the strongest leadership qualities that I think that leaders should have. And going back again to what I said before, having a sense of humor to work through things, to have things that we're going to make it through. We're going to be okay. I got you. We made a mistake. We're going to move on. So those are the critical things I think leaders should possess.
Yeah, definitely. It speaks to that instructional leadership, like that Principal Kafele mentioned earlier. You are the instructional leader, and you have to stay connected to what's going on the ground in those classrooms.
Yep.
Mr. Wallace, what are your 3 characteristics of a leader?
All right, I'm gonna stick with Old Faithful. I've been crisscrossing this state with the 3 I's, buddy. I don't have 7. I had 2 pages of notes too, trying to catch all the 7, but I got 3. And the first one is impact. I'm gonna my version of impact is, what does your dash stand for? I'm not talking about the gravestone. I'm talking about your career. What does your dash stand for? What lives did you impact? Whether it's teachers, central services, because yes, principals do have an impact on central services, and the baby's under your purview. The second one is an investment. You have to invest in your human capital, and the results will take care of themselves. What investment did you make? It's easy for teachers and also for principals to target the middle, to just teach to the middle and just hope that everybody gets the lesson. Well, let me tell you something. Hope is not a plan. You must be intentional with what you do. You must have an investment, because when you make an investment, all of those that are in the stock market, you make that investment, you follow the stock market, you look at it, you cultivate what you try and do and your investment in it, and then you expect a return. You cannot expect a return teaching to the middle, because you're arbitrarily going to miss 40% of it. But when you invest in each and every student and each and every staff member, growth growth is imminent. Last but not least, I just look to inspire. That last I is the most important. You must inspire all those around you. You must inspire them to be great. You must inspire them to do different things to reach each and every child. Your inspiration can move alone. As you heard in the opening keynote, your inspiration, your presence alone can push others to be better from even what they can realize they are. So the 3 I's is what that is. I yield. That's my 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's that legacy. What is your legacy? That dash. What are you leaving? What is your impact? And when you're gone, what is going on in that school? Can it carry on without you?
Yes,
Syeda. Yeah, Syeda, what are your 3 characteristics?
Perfect. My 3 characteristics, I'm piggyback off of Principal Kafele as well as Mr. Wallace. Mr. Wallace loves using my babies, okay? So my piggyback is often about my babies being the buy-in. Like oftentimes a leader forgets that the buy-in really comes from your students, actually getting in there with your students. I always like to say my babies are my investment. My babies are the central goal. They are the ones that I am doing this for. And then the end result shall follow. And oftentimes Principal Kafele will say student achievement. So I relate that to both. I understand that this is a business and it is about a buy-in. The second one is also to be fearless. And when I say a fearless leader, I'm not speaking about, okay, I'm afraid of state decisions. I'm not afraid of county decisions, but be fearless to be able to stand on the right and oftentimes stand alone on the right for children and the community and leadership in itself. Be fearless. And that oftentimes is frightful to be fearless. So that's a huge, huge characteristic. And then the third one, which I believe so many people and so many leaders forget, is that it does take a team. So you have to be the best team leader, the best collaborator, understanding that when a teacher gets accolades, when a student gets accolades, if your assistant principal got accolades, if the regional or county leader had accolades, that you took a part of that as the whole of a child's success. So I definitely feel those are my 3 characteristics.
Yes, so we have a team, the instructional leadership, and still infusing that humor into things and not taking it lightly. Well, Principal Kafele, when you see educators in your building that possess leadership qualities, how do you empower them to lead?
Oh man, you know, it's easy for. Am I unmuted here? Yeah, it's easy for a new leader to feel that he or she has to have their hands and feet into everything, and it's also easy for a new leader to feel that they have to be, or at least project that they are the smartest person in the building. So I was that guy. I had my hands and feet and everything, and I tried to come off like I knew everything. So I was just like I was the smartest one in the building. But over a short period of time, I figured out that there are some very smart people on this staff who could run intellectual circles around it. So the question becomes, why am I not utilizing them? So for me, again, ego, get rid of it. So now let me go to all this talent in the building, all this talent in the room, and let me start tapping into it, because with any school, in a lot of cases anyway, you're going to have people on that staff who want to become an administrator in some capacity, supervisor, director, principal, system, whatever it is. So why am I not utilizing them? I don't have to pay them a dime, right? Because they want the experience, they want the exposure. So I'm going to learn the landscape. I'm going to know who's on my staff. And then as I get to know who's on the staff, what their ambitions are, etc., I begin to tap into them. Even the ones who are not aspiring to move on to administration. But as I get to know them and know what their talents are, what their gifts, what their strengths are, I begin to utilize them, as opposed to me trying to do everything so that I can be freed up to do the things that I feel are most important for my capacity to do.
Yeah, so you have to understand your staff and really get to know them and empower them to start taking chances and lead. So it gives you more time to still be that leader and get into your hands into other things.
That's right.
Yeah. Pamela, when you see educators that possess those leadership qualities, how do you empower them?
I'm so glad you asked me that question, because I just had a conversation today when I was doing a post-observation conference with one of my beginning teachers. And so what I do is, as I'm in the building on a regular basis, going in and out of classrooms and, just getting to know the teachers, when I see that they have skills and abilities that they should be sharing with the rest of the staff, I just tell them. And just like today, I told her, I said, yes, you're a young teacher, you're a beginning teacher, but you have a lot of great skills and abilities and talents that you could share with your team members and with the school as a whole. And I encouraged her to think about what it was that I was sharing with her, and to consider actually participating in a professional development where she could share the things that she knows, and she knows that can be beneficial for the teachers in the building. So I bring it to their attention, and then I encourage them, and I don't force them, but I go to my principal and I say, hey, I believe so-and-so ought to head up this professional development day that we're doing, because they're doing a really great job with this particular in this particular area. So I just really acknowledge and encourage, and I take it to my principal and I ask them, hey, let's give them a chance, even if they are a beginning teacher, because they can still contribute.
Yeah, encouraging that self-reflection.
Exactly.
Within that BT or whoever the staff member may be, is for them to take those chances.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mr. Wallace, how do you empower the educators in your building?
I'm going to tell you, I just get out their way. I get out their way. I find them the role that they want to do. I make sure that I support them and give them the administrative backing to be able to deploy what they want to do. I also turn around and make sure that I give that positive affirmation in the absence of increased compensation. And we know that doesn't exist at the school. You can't pay them more. You must give them positive affirmation that will keep them on that roll and keep them going. Because that's really all we need, is those subtle strokes. And I'll put the scenario to you like this. If we all sat here and we had to put a table together, and I walked in as the leader, and I'm putting the ego back on. I walk in the leader. I want this table done by Friday at 5 o'clock, and you better do it this way. And if you do it, I'm going to write you up, and you walk out the door. We may put that table together, but that table will fall within the year. But if you go in there with affirmation and love, you give them a seat at the table, you give them input on how to manufacture and put the table together, you sit there and you give them the specification, you give them feedback, and then you simply say, I need your help with this. I need your help. Can you please help me with this? That table will never fall. And that's what we need to do. We need to empower the people around you and make sure you affirm all of their due diligence and their hard work. And that's how you create leaders, empower leaders, and keep them going to the end of the school year.
Yeah, I can't even paraphrase that. That's great. Syeda, how do you empower the educators in your building?
I'm gonna put it as simple as I know how, and it came from I'm a name drop, Mr. McGinnis and Mr. Alexander. I put them to work, and putting them to work means that what are some of your end goals? What are some of your endeavors that you truly want to get out? Because there are so many facets of leadership besides being an assistant principal or a principal. There are so many different other facets that you can do. So what initiatives do you want to foster? Do you want to be a part of one of our groups? We always have a group, a cluster, a brand that needs to be expressed. And as you know, many of these, as I call it, indentured servitude, we need their expertise for little to no dollars. And then also to allow them to explore their own leadership potential. Sometimes we don't have enough confidence as a leader to actually be explored. And sometimes you have to get outside your bubble, whether it's your county or your simple community. Go to other state groups. Go to a group like DTEC-TAG. Go to something that may not recognize you as being Mrs. or Mr., but now will recognize you as being a solid and a foundational leader with innovative ideas. I think when you expose yourself, it speaks volumes to everyone else about who you are and how great you can be.
Yeah, just encouraging them to put themselves out there. Exactly. And to get out of their box and to just get that exposure. Yeah. Jack, what do you do?
Well, absolutely. It goes back to that part of listening, being a keen listener of their likes and their interests and what do they aspire to be? What are their next steps? What are their future goals? And as you hear and see of those opportunities within your building or within the district or state, to encourage them to participate and suggest things like, hey, wasn't this an interest of yours? Didn't you want to get into this area? This is a great opportunity for you. So present them with the opportunities to apply some of that, to get a little taste of what that role would be like. So I think that's there, and just throughout their journey is to empower them, to remind them that they can do it, to be a supporter for them, and to believe in them and to keep them going. And those are those three things: empower them, support them, and believe in them.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's a lot of listening and going back to you really have to, yeah, you really have to know your staff. You have to know everyone in your building. It could be the teacher that's in kindergarten or even a custodial member or someone in the cafeteria. It's knowing them and empowering them to take a chance. Yeah. This one's for my principal. For principals, how do you utilize your assistant principals? And if anyone wants to jump in, go for it. How do you utilize your assistant principals?
I'll go. That's you know, on my Saturday Academy, I spent 5 weeks on that, so that was 5 hours of content. So it's there's a lot there, but you know, the bottom line for me is that if you're gonna have an assistant principal in a perfect world where the two of you are on the same page, on the same team, then your role, in addition to how we utilize this person, is you want to make sure that you train up this person, that you coach this person, that you prepare this person to one day become a principal. One of the reasons that I wrote the Assistant Principal 50 and created the virtual AP Leadership Academy is because, for me, the assistant principal is the most misunderstood and underutilized position in all of education. So there's just such a disconnect in how assistant principals are used, you know, are utilized. I get to see it with my own eyes. So I say, well, you know, first and foremost, let's make sure that this person is well-rounded. Let's make sure that this person is not confined to a disciplinarian bus duty, cafeteria duty, and whatever else that has nothing to do with instruction. Because if that person evaluates staff members, teachers, and that person never has an opportunity to be an instructional leader, then we're doing harm to young people and their teachers. But in this regard, particularly the teachers. So I want to make sure that we train up the assistant principal to be the assistant principal that they should be in the first place.
Yeah, train them up, pour into them. Yeah. Jack, how do you utilize your assistant principal?
All the time. I think it's just really about a relationship that we have. You build a trust. We're not territorial about the things that are going to go on. If a parent wants to talk with Tracy over me, then great. That's the best person to help with that situation. We do complete each other's sentences. We got the pulse and the beat of the building. We're on the same page with everything. So, you know, I think having that trust and making sure that trust is known, but also to mentor and to guide and show all facets of the role, not just like, well, I handle the finances and you don't ever see that part. To show this is how we work with the budget. This is how we do those things, because they're typically not in that role. And so to show the other sides of things, and also making sure that they know that there's somebody that I confide in and say, help me with this struggle. They're going to see those moments of challenge and darkness and weakness, and to help get me through those things. So having that trusted partner to be able to know and grow, because when they take that next step, if that's in their career, they're going to know that they're going to need that. They're going to need to have that trusted partner to do that. So for me, it's the best way to model those things through the experience that I can give them as an assistant principal.
Yeah, trusting them and having that open communication and trusting that they can handle.
They can handle it.
Yeah, they can handle it and handle you showing them and pouring into them. Yeah. Tafari, how do you utilize assistant principals?
Oh boy, I've had a lot of them. Oh my goodness. Been a principal for almost 15 years, and I can tell you right now, there's only 3 that are not principals this day that served under the purview. And how I accomplished that, I don't have assistant principals. I have associate principals. I have associate principals. I go right in, and you can ask any of them. I act like I don't know. It's the funniest thing in the world. Now, like I don't know, and then they, in their intellectual drive, go and find the answer. But in that is learning. You learn by doing. For all their deficits that they stress out, they say, "Oh, I'm scared of this. I'm scared of that." I invoke spontaneous rehabilitation. If you are afraid to speak in front of a group, guess what the principal's going to do? Right, Mr. Davern, go right on ahead. Tell the staff what, and they're looking like, huh? And y'all, the reason why we do that, we learn best by learning. How do you get over your fear of water? Did somebody push you in? Now you jump in and get them to make sure they're fine, and you pull them back out. But they've learned that lesson as they go. Montreal Lee, I'm gonna just go ahead and tell you, and I'll digress after that. Montreal Lee served under me at West Craven High School for 3 years. I left one principal of the year, was traveling the state, going back and forth. After we invested in that young man, that first year and a half, he had the tools able to run a building. And then the practice came in. And then he practiced in my building during my travels and this and that. As soon as that, my tenure was over, 2 months later, the young man became principal of Oversea Fields, and he's over there killing it right now. And that is how you do it. Again, invest in your human capital, and the results will take care of themselves.
Yeah, investing in them, trusting them. There's a part of that trust that you trusted that they can do it.
Yes.
And just like you said, pushing them, just push them in the deep end.
Push them in.
Yeah. So this question is for Syeda and Pamela. How would you like to be utilized? Was there anything that you may have heard things like, you're like, yes, that's how I want to be utilized, or what can you add to that? Sure. Pamela or Syeda, go ahead.
Great, Syeda. All right, perfect. Number one, my current principal, and I don't ever mean to name drop, but I have wonderful people. So Mr. Stokes, I love to give people their flowers while they're here. He definitely did that. And like I said, my mentors are all on here. All of you all are my mentors. So when I saw that my current principal did not only put me in bus duty, but also put me in accounting, did not only put me in books, they also made sure that I had a seat in the table when it came to decision making, made sure that he was late or absent on purpose just to see how I cultivated relationships, made sure that I also had a seat in the table when it comes to family, and also understanding that the role that it takes is that I can be vulnerable to someone. So I say the biggest thing that assistant principals need to be utilized is understanding that we are forever interning. So we are interning as we are practicing, but the end goal is to be a dynamic leader. I want to make sure that principals are not utilizing assistant principals immaturely. So in other words, giving them tad bits and oftentimes being concerned more of a takeover than a collaborative person. I definitely want assistant principals to understand that it does require a team. No matter if you dislike or like the principal, it still requires a team. And oftentimes it requires you to keep your mouth closed. Make sure that things are confided with one another. That's the only way. And also let your egos rest. And the back wind, let your egos rest, because we still have the same goal for student achievement, for excellence within the building. So utilizing assistant principals definitely within that mentoring relationship. You never, ever stop learning, always. And also making sure that they're doing vastly amounts of difference so that when Mr. Wallace mentioned, when you are absent, they can quickly step in, do the role, and it's not any egos, but you know your school is taken care of. And I think the greatest principle is demonstrated when they're out the building and they can see their AP step all the way in, and the school is run just as well, if not better, with different philosophies from a different individual. So I feel that that speaks volumes.
Yeah, it's like when you're in the classroom and you are a leader in your classroom as a teacher and a great effective teacher, on those days that you're absent, the class is still running, or you go to the bathroom and your colleagues and peers walk by and they're like, the teacher's not in there. It's the same with leadership and being utilized, is having that trust and that open door for your assistant principals. Pamela, how would you like to be utilized?
I like to be utilized as a partner, a trusted partner where the trust goes both ways. I want my principal to understand that my number one purpose is to be there to assist him or her in carrying out his or her vision to make sure that our scholars in our building are educated by highly effective teachers, and that our teachers know that they are valued, that they are important, that they matter, and that, like you said, we are a team. But the biggest thing for me is a partnership, that we are going through this together. Don't leave me out. Don't let me go to the faculty meeting and I find out what you're sharing at the faculty meeting. I need to know, I need a heads up before we even talk to the staff. So if someone's asking me a question, then I can say to them what it is that you would want me to say to them. But if I don't already have that information, I can't do that. So I want us to be partners in it together for the best of everyone that is in that building, and so that we can grow together and make sure that ultimately our scholars are educated and they can eventually have a life that's well, and that our teachers know that they matter. It's not only about the children, it has to be about the teachers as well. And so that's basically, I mean, just utilize me however I need to be utilized, but make it a partnership where the end result is that we all win. We all win.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a marriage, successful marriage. Your children are watching that. And if there's dysfunction in the partnership, there'll be dysfunction within the family.
Exactly.
And your school is your family.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. So one of my TAG sisters has completed reading the book One Thing by Gary Keller. And the book discusses the value of simplifying one's workload by focusing on one most important thing. As an inspiring leader, what should that one thing be? What should that one thing be? Let's start with Principal Kafele.
For if to reduce it or narrow it to one thing, I've been consistent for a long time. For me, it's the instructional side, and although one could make the case for so many other components to what that one thing should be, I think about the reason that young people are in school in the first place, and I devote a lot of my attention and energy to this thing called an achievement gap. And just the volume of our children who are on the wrong side of that gap. So with their purpose of being in the school in the first place being to learn, well, I want to make sure that instruction is high quality. So for me, that aspiring leader that wants to come in and maybe watch movies and saw something other than instructional leadership, I want to make sure that they understand that at the core of their responsibility, as I learned from my mentor, is to ensure that teachers are growing continually as instructors, as it relates to teaching and learning and all the facets of what that learning looks like. That's where I'm at when we reduce it to one thing.
Okay, yeah. Jack, what's that one thing?
Build relationships. Period.
Great. Pamela.
Building relationships. Yes.
Syeda.
I guess mine's a little bit more complicated. I would say balance. Understanding that my family, my friends, my husband, my daughter is just as important, and it makes me equally as whole as understanding that I love my school community, as well as my students, as well as the teachers. So mine would definitely be balance.
All right. And Tafari.
It would be high expectations. High expectations spills over into instruction. High expectations spills over to discipline, processes, PLCs, to your students' mindset. High expectations, simply put, means my teacher believes in me. High expectation means to the teacher, my principal believes in me to attain the goal and to grow these babies. And then to your superintendent, that principal is going to carry out the goals set down by the state board, the legislature, and our local LEA. High expectations.
So I hope everyone has written that down. High expectations, balance, relationships, trust, and also being that instructional leader. Don't ever forget where you came from that classroom, and keeping the pulse of what's on the ground. With that being said, there's a lot to unpack tonight, and I hope that everyone took some great notes. Rewatch it if you want to know more. You can always text Join TAG to 51555. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for tonight. As I'm currently an instructional coach, and this is my first year doing it within the pandemic, and it's just, tonight has really shifted my mindset and my leadership goals and what I want to be doing next. So I thank you. I thank you for tonight. I thank you for having this conversation, because it somewhat had coached me into another path. Thank you. I would like to bring back my tag sister, Tia, because she has a special something for you guys.
Y'all, I'm so sorry. I was over here just talking, and I was muted, just like I am sometimes when I'm teaching, and my kids are like, Miss Wilson, we can't hear you. So let me start back over. First of all, we want to thank you all thank the panelists for what they said, the gems that they dropped. I was taking notes. I got a lot out of it. Listen to hear, seek mentors that inspire you, be humble. Don't forget what it's like to be a classroom teacher. It takes a team, getting to know your staff, empower, support, believe, building relationships, having balance and high expectations. And then last but not least, that sense of humor. And I can honestly say, as Mr. Davern being my principal, we have a great sense of humor at Elon. We are always laughing and cutting up. We're doing our teaching and all those important things, but we do have that sense of humor. So I want to thank you so much for the gems that you dropped tonight again. If we had all the money in the world, we could not pay you for what you brought to us this evening. But we do have some certificates of appreciation. So Principal Kafele, this certificate is presented to you for your continued dedication to advocating great change in education. Pamela Toller Criswell, this certificate is presented to you for your continued dedication to advocating great change in education. Jack Davern, this certificate is presented to you for your continued dedication advocating great change in education. Syeda Smith Williams, this certificate is presented to you for your continued dedication to advocating great change in education. And last but not least, Mr. Tafari Wallace, this certificate is presented to you for your continued dedication to advocating great change in education. Please complete the Survey Monkey that is scrolling across your screen. We value your feedback. And as a TAG team, we would love to have your feedback. So please complete that survey. So over the course of TAG 2.0, the North Carolina TAG team has presented 6 programs. Does it equate? A conversation with Jim Mangrum. I'm counted, I voted, now what? I'm counted, I voted, now what? Part 2. Let us speak, youth voices. And then tonight, a leadership mindset. And I know some of y'all probably wonder why I'm tearing up, but this is our last presentation on this platform. And I'm truly thankful for the opportunity that I've had to serve with DTEC-TAG, which I started out in the very beginning of this. And I'm just so appreciative for the vision and for having the opportunity to meet and network with people all across the country. This has really been one of the best professional development opportunities that I've ever had the opportunity to participate in. So it's kind of emotional and okay, but I'm gonna get it together. Even though this is our last presentation on this platform, the best is yet to come, and I want to invite each and every last one of you to come to our teacher symposium on April the 17th, where all the TAG teams from Texas, the DMV, North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, and I left somebody off. Let's see, North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida. I said Florida, didn't I? Texas and Tennessee will all come, and Georgia will all come together on April 17th. There's a registration form where you can register. The link is in the comment section. But in 2016, on the beautiful campus of the University of Central Florida, Dr. Paulette C. Walker gave a charge to us, and she said, "Tag, you're it." And with that being said, she's going to be one of our keynote speakers. So we really need you to come out and listen. And then, you know, laughter is good for the soul. And so we're going to have Eddie be there. And we want you to be there too. So on that note, Tag, you're it. If you want to connect with us, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Have a great night.
Fight against them, but we need numbers. We need to show up at school board meetings. We need to show up at county commissioner meetings. We need to have someone on the agenda to talk and know what they're talking about to advocate.